my fellow Texans, those of you who aren't lucky enough to be from Texas, you're welcome here too. But I'm sorry.
I think something very, very interesting is about to happen in Texas music, and I couldn't tell you what it is, but it will probably come out of Austin.
Are you ready? Are you really ready?
I finished the first 78,000 words.
Welcome to Threadgills. Welcome to Threadgill.
Welcome to South and Threadgills. Don't give up your day job.
Here's your job. You get up, you eat,
I'm plumb full about
take a shower, go to the river, listen to music, play music.
Music, music, music. It's neck deep, non-stop.
2 lessons on the accordion. And he squeaked and squeaked up there.
3 chords. Let him rock your pants off.
Yeah!
Rock to some kind of a hippie rock to this country singer-songwriter thing.
I wrote that waiting at a bus stop one time in Austin.
We all met through an ad in the Austin Chronicle.
And it's going to be an amazing time.
Smiling like Austin does.
It was good beer and cheap.
He probably wouldn't want me to talk about it.
That made the Austin music scene what it was in the early 1970s, and there might be some truth to that. In fact, there's a lot of truth to it.
This is great.
That'll keep you going.
Utter geniuses.
Stupid.
Jesus, John Kennedy and Elvis Presley.
Let me tell you.
It's a big deal.
Man, don't even think about changing that channel.
Serving up Texas' hottest original acts. The all-you-can-eat Texas Music Cafe boldly goes where commercial radio and television fear to tread. So kick up your heels for another exciting episode from the all-you-can-eat Texas Music Cafe.
Harvest time hath kissed the field in ripe and splendor, and the cherries hang in clusters from the trees.
Well, the unique thing about Kenneth Threadgill is he is the father of Austin music, and he's called that not just because he himself was a singer, a blue yodeler in the Jimmy Rogers tradition, not just because he was a band leader and he had his own band and had a female drummer in the 1960s when it was very unusual for women to be drumming in a band, a country band. He also booked the band, so he was a booking agent, and he was an entrepreneur that had the facility. So he really did have all the elements that are required to have a live music scene in Austin.
I got to know Kenneth Threadgill because his youngest daughter, Dottie, was in a speech class that I had as a sophomore at McCallum High School right around the corner, and Dottie was a senior, and I prayed and prayed that she would be my first older woman, but try as I might, I just couldn't cut it with no car. But I got up to Threadgills a number of times because I knew that that was where Dottie might be, and Mr. Threadgill was the first older man outside of my high school experience that remembered my name. The second time I walked in there, it was "Hi, Eddie," and bam, all of a sudden we were buddies.
We got wind of a place out in North Austin that was a country bar where people were doing this not secondhand. These are people who had been singing the same music we were doing, but they'd been doing it since it was new, or for years, always. There were a bunch of older folks and working class people who weren't university students and didn't have well, they had the real ring of authenticity. And so we plucked up our courage and tucked our hair inside our shirt collars and came out and met Mr. Threadgill.
People of all walks of life knew Threadgill, knew the place, and would drop in from time to time. So it was many times a very mixed crowd.
And his facility, Threadgills service station on North Lamar, became a focal point for an eclectic group of diverse musicians who could hang out nowhere else in Austin together. These were people of various races and various lifestyles, many of whom were unwelcome in other nightclubs located in Austin at the time.
It was a honky-tonk full of hillbillies and wannabe hillbillies. It started, in my generation, it evolved from what the essence of Kenneth's group in the 40s from the Snapshot looks like they were the grunge bands and the garage bands of his day. I mean, a bunch of guys, after work in khakis and Marlon Brando undershirts, smoking 10,000 cigarettes and drinking 100 bottles of beer and making country music.
Goat were walking in the pasture. Sheep said to the goat, can you get a little faster? Sheep fell down, the goat rolled over. Sheep got up with a mouthful of clover. Like my pie, like my pudding. Love that gal that they call Sally Goodell. Sitting up on a melon vine, the goose that chew tobacco while the duck is drinking wine. Like my pie, like my pudding. Love that gal that they call Sally Goodell. Possum up becomes stuffed dog on the ground. Men's with the shotgun walking all around. Possum sucks his head out and grin, kinda silly. The women and the children now the willy willy. Like my pie, like my pudding. Love that gal that they call Sally Goodell. Let your little foot beat against the ground. Circulate and spread out wide. Grab your partner and go all the while. Like my pie, like my pudding. Love that gal that they call Sally Goodell.
What Kenneth did was accept misfits. He was a tolerant sort of guy. He was the personification of the liberal tolerance of Austin, Texas.
Well, Kenneth Threadgill was very open to music of all genres. Wednesday night tradition started somewhere around 1950, and at first it was very blue collar. And very much a working man's bar and working man's get-together. And then in the mid-50s, there was a national folk music phenomena that began to occur, and the folk musicians and the professors from the University of Texas started coming in. By the time you hit the early 60s, there definitely was a folk movement with Bob Dylan and the others, and Joan Baez. And so folk clubs were coming in, and that's when Janis Joplin arrived, because she was a folk singer when she first got here. She played an auto harp.
What good can you reckon?
I met Janis, of course, at the university. She had come up from Port Arthur with a friend of mine's brother. They were up for the weekend, or I'm not sure how long, but they were visiting. So I met Janis, and Jan had just come back from California. This was an early trip that she made pretty much right out of high school.
I'm not sure when it was. I guess Terry Owens could pin the date down a little bit better than I could. So 1962 or 63, he and Powell St. John and Lanny Wiggins and Janis Joplin came out to Threadgills for the first time. I'll never forget that. I was there the first night they came in. Janis was playing the auto harp and was singing not simply blues. She was singing a lot of Carter family songs, Rose Maddox songs, bluegrass tunes with the group.
Bill Malone and I were coming out here on a Wednesday or Thursday night, I can't remember which, and and Janice and her group, who'd been performing around the university for a while, just suddenly dropped in.
Well, I was on the periphery. I was not a participant. I was an observer, and I guess an observer in awe, you might say. It was quite a scene. It was really elbow to elbow, and when Janice sang, the atmosphere was charged. I mean, it was changed.
Mr. Threadgill saw Janice and then heard her sing. People were put off by Janice's demeanor sometimes, and that probably would have included Threadgill, but when he heard her sing, he just sat back because he knew that there was really something there. And from the minute that he heard her sing, he was a Janice fan, and she of him in the same way. So there was this mutual admiration society between the two of them that continued all of her life. And he was her silver-haired daddy.
After Janis Joplin and her friends started coming out, then a younger crowd from the university discovered Threadgill, and they started coming out. So little by little, the crowd got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I didn't realize at the time, too, that Threadgills at that time was a kind of microcosm of what Austin itself would be not too many years later. When Willie Nelson and Marcia Ball and Jerry Jeff Walker and all those people came in. Because you could hear at Threadgills in the 1960s the same mixture of songs, folk and country and all that, that you later heard being played in the bars and clubs in this city.
It was our job to take the Armadillo World Headquarters from its rootsy beginnings and give it worldwide exposure and get worldwide attention on the Austin music scene. And we had an empire in mind, media-wise, that would certainly rival the Grand Ole Opry. We were going to be Armadillo comic books, Armadillo records, Armadillo television, Armadillo radio, also the concert hall. And so we had quite a grandiose dream. And we shot hard at the moon, and we almost made it, but we fell back to earth, some of us with melted wings. Armadillo was an important part of my life, and Armadillo changed Austin forever. So did Willie Nelson.
Willie is the Mother Teresa of the movement, for crying out loud. He's the perfect role model. He's the white man's Muhammad Ali, There's no question that Armadillo and Willie Nelson defined the 70s, and I was really honored to have had an office at Armadillo and be part of the Armadillo World Headquarters. Pilot for Austin City Limits was a project that I worked on, one of the first projects I worked on with Armadillo Productions. The first pilot, we have the pilot of the pilot, was called Armadillo Country Music Review. KLRU came to our company, the local PBS station, and said, we see an opening on PBS for something that might be country music oriented. And we tried to duplicate the look of Armadillo World Headquarters. So we went around and found a set that was really for a Hispanic children's show, but it had bleachers. And Armadillo had bleachers. And so we took these bleachers and we surrounded the stage with the bleachers. I think our budget was $14,000 on the pilot. And we booked Willie Nelson onto that pilot, as a matter of fact. Our company did that. So we played a big role in the first Austin City Limits pilot.
Whiskey River, take my
Eddie went on to restore Threadgills. He and Kenneth Threadgill did a handshake in the parking lot, and he said, Kenneth, a lot of what you did is the reason there was an Armadillo World Headquarters, and I'm going to see to it that your memory and the memory of what you did remains in the community, and he's held up that end of it. And people have said that Threadgills is Austin's first theme restaurant, and the theme is Austin.
He played Armadillo World Headquarters the night it closed, and so it's kind of hard to describe the relationship by then. I hired him, and then I rebuilt his place. We did a handshake real estate deal for me to. The place had been closed for about 4 years, and I thought I could remodel it, but it was too rotten to even hold a nail. We saved 3 boards from the original place, and when we got it rebuilt, I asked Kenneth if he would start playing on Wednesday nights like he had before, but a little earlier. We were closing about the time he used to start playing in the old days.
They always catch us. They sure do, Miss Diana. And I know the feeling that they're left with. And it's raining in my world. From England to Texas.
Hotter summer there's never been. Still a stone without a breath of wind. All the farmers prayed for rain again. Amen. July arrived bearing no relief. So hot one night she cried in disbelief. I had to ask if those were tears or sweat shining on her cheek. Like the fields in which we lay, dry as tender, quick to flame. Sometimes I think we found a place we should have stayed.
My relationship with a lot of musicians grew out of watching Kenneth and his relationship, with some musicians. And Kenneth didn't have a whole lot to offer. He had rat cheese and stale crackers and hot mustard that he made with whiskey. He had Cold Grand Prize until they quit selling it in '67, and that's what Janice drank. It was cheap.
Musicians need to mix. That's how they grow. Musicians need to sit around and play music with each other instead of playing music for each other, playing their latest record for each other. In my experience as a musician, when I have gotten the most inspiration and growth, it's from sitting around with other musicians playing with them. And that's what Threadgills has always promoted.
Rain and shine, I let my chance go.
Her name is Patricia Jane. I'll never be happy till I'm by her side out on those West Texas plains.
Don Walser is one of the enigmas of Austin and is a perfect example of what Austin music's all about. And of course he has now been voted or awarded the title of National Treasure, which he certainly is. But Don Walser, who can play at the Broken Spoke, and all of the rednecks and the cowboys and cowgirls will get out there and two-step to Don Walser. And then the next night he's down there at Emo's and he's playing in front of all the alternative punk rockers. And then the next night, he's at Threadgills and he's playing in front of a dinner audience for a supper show. So that's the kind of variety that someone like Don Walser has.
The average picker on the street right now in Austin, Texas is 80% better than most of the guys who were front and center on stage whenever I started. Well, I guess, hell, it's been 40 years, you know.
So what you're going to see is a tremendous amount of diversity. You're going to see that no two bands in Austin sound alike or look alike. You can't say that Austin is a center where you're going to hear a particular kind of music as far as blues or country or hard rock or punk rock or alternative rock or Latino, salsa, conjunta. No. In Austin, what you're going to hear is you're going to hear a wide variety of progressive music, all of it a little bit freer and a little bit more poetic than you'll find in any other city in the world.
I think it's important that we try to find contemporary ways to honor traditional forms. We don't want to give up our heritage, but we don't want to be old fuddy-duddies and old fogies. You know, I mean, there's a lot of serious right-wingers in the bluegrass world, for instance. You know, we influenced some of those people here. We didn't influence them all. It turned out to be the music that really counted.
What Kenneth started almost 60 years ago continues today. And all this happens because of what one man did many years ago, and the fact that the name has been carried on by Eddie Wilson when he took over the Threadgill service station, turned it into a world-class restaurant.
I fell into a role, kind of inherited Kenneth's old apron, you know. I kind of inherited, the pot-bellied storyteller role from Kenneth. I wouldn't trade what I've done, wouldn't spend any time wondering about it, you know. I mean, I knew pretty young I was never going to be pretty, so I never thought about, making a movie. I just always thought I'd just live this one. It's a good movie. It's been a comedy most of the time.